Ladies and gentlemen, the 17th of August 2016, the series of recordings devoted to supplying correct information for the files concerning Agnieszka Rojek functioning in the internet is Agnieszka Justitia Rojek, the Queen of Aquipolitania, the real person being the citizen of Poland, born on the 27th of September 1974 as a daughter of Barbara and Bronisław. I asked the question about what information is still needed, and there are some other routes I need to take for sure too. However, this recording is devoted to me as a Scientologist. I don't ask questions about me being a Scientologist or not. Officially, it's very hard to say what my Scientology situation is because there's a huge confusion of data, and I can only give you some facts. So the facts are my family from Canada are Scientologists. They have been Scientologists for a long time. It's not revealing any secret because at least two persons from the family function in Facebook as Scientologists through their lives. So this is the context. And thanks to my family, I learned about Scientology. Originally, I had a lot of confused ideas that can be connected to what is called in Scientology verbal tech, and is more or less what I am doing now. But it is different because I'm really professional and I'm really reliable. Plus, I do differentiate and accent the difference between my opinion and the data as such. So, on the whole, for some time I was enthusiastic about some idea of Scientology I had, but I never did anything in the direction. I mean, I did some introductory reading when I was spending my vacation in Canada after the second year of my studies. So, which year was it? Oh, I'm not sure. Anyway, it's not. You can check it in my other documents. Anyway, I did not become a Scientologist then, even though I sometimes call myself a Scientologist. This is the time when I went to my first Scientology event because I went to the Toronto.org and I talked to. I saw the event, I saw the crowd. I felt very uncomfortable with it because I hate such situations. But then I had to interview with a person from Black. Let's see, I choose sort of making a hole in my brain. I don't know if she was reading me, scanning me, or if she actually put something there. She did say that I might come to Black one day, which was a kind of what do you call it? Attention lock or something like that, perhaps. Anyway, I came back to Poland and I got busy with my life. From time to time, I would mention Scientology, but I had no competence. I had no knowledge of it. I hadn't had any training. I hadn't had any auditing. I just had some ideas, and many of them were totally incorrect. So whatever my boyfriend got from me on the subject of Scientology is totally unreliable, which makes his opinion of Scientology is totally unreliable because he was not talking about Scientology. He was talking about the person Agnieszka Rojek, who was his girlfriend at that particular point in time. After I completed my studies, actually doing my studies, the fifth year of my studies, the last year of my studies, which is year 2001, my father died. And I broke down. I went into a total nervous collapse. I started reading a book about neurosis by Hornby, which is a specialist book, but for popular audience, for for a popular reader, and I diagnosed myself with most of them. Very soon, I was in a state, so I went to a psychotherapist, which had me go into a worse state even. Um, at one point, my uncle called me and he started telling me the Scientology way. In 3 weeks, my problems were over. I recovered. I got myself back. I got my life back. And I was really me, even if supported by some other people who synchronized with me at the time. But it is an important point to make. Tone 4.0, which is the Scientology tone, the top of the tone scale, as far as human tones are concerned, because there are, of course, higher tones. The last time I was in contact with the organization, with people, with Scientologists, the top tone was 40, which is the postulate. So you are totally a host at this point. But I'm talking, but this is an OT operation, operating Thetan. Operating Thetan is a cause over matter space matter energy space time thought and life. So this is actually an existence that is able to affect or to have an influence and create an effect on all. Uh, Very powerful, of course. So this is the level of operation Scientologists are dealing with, and it is very important to understand it, because if you think of it in terms of power and in terms of what it can mean to the world, it means that it can do a lot. And it is important who has the power then. Basically, the verbal tech again, so what someone told me, which was probably an opinion, unless it was a well-informed opinion resulting from the study, is that once you get that high as an OT, as a person, as the spirit, ethics goes with it. So no need to worry. Certainly enough, my experience has proved otherwise. So there is a lot to worry about. And this is why I believe that it is quite important that people who are of high ethics should know Scientology. And this is an opinion. My attitude to Scientology is totally positive, but what does it mean? Let me tell you how Scientology functions in my life. So I will be using terms, I will be describing things to you, but I want to emphasize that this is not a promotion aiming at making you become Scientologists, because I don't think that many people have the ethics level I have, the spiritual stamina I have, the courage I have, the persistence and perseverance I have. And it is quite important. At the end, intelligence I have, plus the education I have, and perhaps it's also important that I had the teachers I had and other connections also. So let us be humble enough to be proud of what we have, by understanding that the powers we are dealing with are immense, are totally out of this world. And it takes a lot to make us survive once we go into a tension, not to mention a conflict or a war. My Scientology world. So let us start with ontology. So what there is, what there isn't, and so on. I believe that, which is in agreement with the Scientology, that a person consists of three parts. Basically, this is the basic differentiation: the spirit, the mind, and the body. So this goes together with the holistic thinking, right? You have the spirit, the mind, and the body. Nothing new. Some people call it esoteric. Well, I don't think it is so. I mean, how does it function in other religions? So this is the starting point. So at the very beginning, we agree that we are not digits or combinations of whatever. We are spirits. We are spiritual beings or spiritual existence. That because at one point we arrive at asking ourselves about individuality. So here, different religions can have different approaches. I think of myself as an individual, so I am the individual life, and that life is first to the physical world, which basically means that when I die, my body dies. I can die spiritually, which means that I, as a person, start disappearing, start vanishing. I'm not sure if a spirit can die. Actually, that is vanish completely. But that is a very deep philosophical question, and I'm not curious to learn. So I'm more interested with having more and better life now, my own, not other people's life. So I don't want to become a spiritual compound either. So again, you have the spirit, which is called the Thetan in Scientology, the mind. There you will have the differentiation between the analytical mind and the reactive mind, and you have the body. So I am the spirit, I have the mind, and I have the body. Now, I have arrived at this thinking of, through my recent experience, at this questioning the idea of being a spirit or having a spirit. But this is a new development, and this is a very high concept that I need to work on. It is enough to think, for now, it is enough to assume I am life. I am the spirit. So it goes into creationism, okay? Creationism. It means I can create things as a spirit, so I can create something out of nothing, provided I am capable, powerful, sane, and in a good condition. Of course, in a superb condition. So this is my overall perception of life. And now, um, I have never had any auditing. I mean, I had some at St. Hill started, but it did not work well, to be honest. Actually, it was a complete failure. There was a boy doing his Dianetics course, and he had to do his practical exercise, his practical task. So I agreed, but I didn't want to agree, but I agreed, and it was a disaster, a complete disaster. Then when I was on the EPF, or was I already in the CO on the EPF? We had a group auditing, which had to do with noticing the spot on the wall. So this is I don't know, probably about being present, or and about being one with the group. I guess I don't know what the purpose of the auditing was, but it was not mine, in the sense that I never had any other thing. So perhaps I would have a different opinion if I had any, but without having any, and it being unnecessary in my case due to me being 4.0. So, you know, this is cleaning the clean. There's a rule in Scientology about not cleaning the clean, because if you start cleaning the clean, you actually make the person insane. Immediately you should notice, you know, put it down in your notes that if you have any problems with the Scientology organization in terms of the person getting auditing and getting worse, well, you have to ask yourself the question whether the person is not fucked up or actually made insane on purpose due to being assessed with the incorrect tone, because this is the Scientology knowledge. If you audit the person at the wrong, at the incorrect tone, you make the person insane. As for the what does it mean that I don't need auditing? It means that this is my analytical mind that is dominating my life, and basically it has to do with how you decide about things, or your motivation, who you really are. Of course, previously it was different because I was a PTS. So let me tell you a few words about PTSness and suppression. This is these are two the technology dealing with PTSness and suppression is actually key to Scientology, and the purpose of Scientology is to lift, to counteract suppression. So it cannot be undermined, unappreciated, or I don't know. When you are a Scientologist, this is actually basic. How do I, again, you check it for yourself in your books, but how do I understand it? How does it function in my life? Well, suppression basically is everything that knocks you out of your own determinism, other area, like you're having decided that you are this and not that, or current, that is deciding what you want to do now, for example, or whom you are now, or future, that is you deciding whom you are going to be, what you are going to do in the future. On the whole, there is this powerful opening put in very simple words of be, do, and have. So, the way you think of your life, if you want to have order in it, is that if you want to have something, you must do something to have it. And to do something to have it, you must be someone or something. Okay? So, for example, if I want to have knowledge of English, I must learn English, and to learn English, I must become a student. Who wants to learn English? These are other modifications. Okay? Or let's say a person willing to learn English, a student, in other words, an English student. A student of English. Okay, so this is a simple example. And if someone comes into my life and starts squashing, blocking, interfering with any of these, be, do, or have, it can be more or less suppressive. Now, the problem I have in Scientology is that when you talk about suppression, you, in being faithful to the technology, you have to think of overts and withholds because that goes together. So the idea is that if you became a victim, that is the effect of a suppression, you must have had some overts and withholds in the area. Otherwise, the suppression wouldn't have happened. Well, I believe this is incorrect. But I'm telling you this because this is a Scientology fact. What is correct for sure, and I know it for sure, that if you don't have any overs and withholds, and you are a victim of suppression, you are much more in control and much more in power, much more able to confront the situation, to come up with solutions, to survive. Then, when you have overs or withholds, and obviously, if you don't have overs and withholds, then you are closer to the truth. Because, when you withhold something, you actually twist the truth. So there's another Scientology concept that has to do with it. If you want to regain your full power, what you aim at is as isness. So there's a verb in Scientology which says as is things. So it means that you actually have things as they are or as they were, and it has to do with the truth. So you have the form or arrangement, you have the consequence. This is what overts and withholds have to do with. If the way in which you solve the problems in Scientology or life problems, which quite often have to do with your ethics, if not always, but let's say most of the time, then you do you handle your ethics and you do your OWs right. O, overt, W, withhold. Overt is what you do, and you shouldn't do it because it's against the code of conduct you agreed to. And withhold, or it is what you don't do and should do because that is what your code of conduct tells you, the code you have agreed to. So these are, all those elements are important. So this is an overt. For example, you become a student and you don't learn. Well, this is your overt. Because if you became a student, your duty is to learn. And each situation like this has consequences. This is the event. So I did not learn. As a consequence, I did not have the knowledge. So I failed my exam. And then you might have a withhold. Well, but I didn't tell my mom that I didn't learn. And you can have another overt. Well, I actually told her that the teacher was poor. So now you have an overt on or against the teacher, starting with your third, and this is called commission. So you lied about the teacher, destroying the teacher's reputation. And before you had omission, so you did not learn. And basically, if you want to be a bright student again, you need to do your OWs right, which is saying what happened or what did not happen, or what was withheld. Form, that is what, when, the arrangement of things, and then event, the consequence, what happened as a result, as a consequence, what does it really mean? This is exactly what I did when I had problems after my father's death. And there were all sorts of situations coming up in my mind. After some time, I was thinking of it, and I thought, well, actually, this is not an oval. Why did I put it as an oval? So you must ask yourself these questions. I had a very funny conversation with one person who had a problem with exceeding the speed limit while driving a car. And she actually said, "Well, but I did not consider it. I did not agree to it. So I don't agree that if I mean, these are not her words right now, but this is the meaning. So I do not agree that if you drive that fast, that you actually do something wrong, that you become a danger or whatever." So obviously, she had some problem with the code. She did not agree to that code at all. So in her personal life, she did not do anything wrong. Now it is a question: can you not agree to that code or not? So these are other questions, but it is important to understand that you have to take all those things into account. And now, normally, people quite often just do what they are taught. Okay, so if you are a problem, you have the procedure. So you do this, this, and this, and this is simple. So, most Scientologists would tell me, well, you have all those considerations and you are making things difficult and so on, so on. Well, excuse me, this is invalidation. So what is invalidation? Invalidation has to do with suppression. And this is making nothing of your efforts. It is making things that you consider important unimportant. It is belittling you, or you can belittle someone, or whatever that undermines your belief or your conviction. Now, tell me, if I am taking my exam in English and I get not English, or let's say I'm taking my exam in French and I get 5 points out of 100. Is it an invalidation? Of course, it is not. It is assessment. That's all. So it is very important to differentiate between those two statements. Well, I'm terribly sorry, but your English right now is poor. I mean, there's a lot. Your French at the moment is poor. Let's keep French because that connects with sex for too many people. So let's have, for example, German. So your German is, it's not good enough. So you shouldn't go to this wonderful university you have dreamt of all your life in Heidelberg, because you will not make it. Thank you very much for being so supportive. Well, no, actually, I mean, it does not mean that you cannot go there. It means that you are supposed to go home, open your German book or open whatever, start learning German, and that's all. That's all. That's really all. And so this is totally different from someone coming there and saying, well, I'm going to solve the problem of terrorism. Oh, really? That's curious. But you can't solve the problem of terrorism. What do you mean? Well, because, I will give you data. Well, I think I can solve the problem first, but the data says, where is it written? So you see, actually, as a matter of fact, you have a completely different situation. There is the person that has a conviction she or he can do something, and then okay, there are some qualifications. So okay, with this, for example, I will go to Pakistan and talk to Bin Laden. You will get shot. Okay. End of the conversation. What am I supposed to say then? Well, basically, you can say that, well, there's a very high probability that you will get shot, but perhaps you won't. I mean, there are all sorts of ways that actually have to do with your belief in people. Or there's another option. You might not believe in them because it is not your duty to believe in something that you don't believe in. I mean, if you are made to believe in something that you don't believe in, you are actually invalidated. You are actually being suppressed. So you can give the opening. Listen, from my point of view, it is impossible, but you are not me. And that's it. I mean, it takes enormous arrogance to assume that if I have not been able to do something, no one is able to do it. Well, certainly the student of the Jagiellonian University with Nicholas Copernicus in it cannot uphold such an attitude. So that concerns all science, including Scientology. It is possible that there are mistakes in Scientology, and it does not undermine Scientology at all. Which makes me think of another Scientology concept. Actually, technology, the study technology. The study technology, which is totally amazing, wonderful, and it takes people up even if they were down once. Actually, I had the experience on the EPF. There was the woman, and the woman was dyslexic and considered retarded as a young woman, as a young girl, as a little girl. I don't know which stage of education it was. Well, actually, she went through her EPF as one of the fastest ones. So, okay, perhaps she was like this other student, this other EPFer, whom you could admire, because when we are doing our martial arts, well, actually not martial arts, you have this left, right, left, right, left, right. Oh, left, right, left, left, right, left, right. Like you have to move your body, okay? And you have the whole group moving your body. So this is a great exercise when you know actually what's happening, the dynamics. I did not understand it then. What I understood then was I was not fast enough. And there was this one woman who was just perfect. So Daniel was saying left, right, left, right, left, right, right. And she was like, boom, 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 boom. And it took me some time to understand that she was actually the extension of his mind. So perhaps this is not the best solution, and exactly the same thing can do during your studies. My situation was totally different. Actually, I started I started asking myself at one point if I was not subconsciously auditing the whole organization, because I was checking word clearing, actually, not auditing, but word clearing the whole organization, because I was checking and cleaning up words which I surely know and had never had any problems with that. So I was a very slow student. Those long list of words that I was checking, the words that I did know, but perhaps other people had some misunderstandings in it. And as a team, There are many things, mere variables that come into play. However, the basic idea that I want to make you aware of is that this is perhaps not the only, but one of those technologies that makes the seemingly um, incapable student capable. And as a teacher, I do appreciate it. Uh, so I don't want to go into the discussion of the technology as such. You can study it. This is study tech. And if you, I mean, I'm not promoting it, but if you are interested, that it's better to study it from the Scientology handbook and then from or some other books that cover the Scientology technology, the Scientology study technology, than from the advertisements you get on the official Scientology site, because the advertisement of the courses, which give you some data, but they actually twist the data that is connected with the recording I made on suppression. You can find it in one of my Vimeo sites, where I actually took the book and explained why the advertisement there was incorrect, which was why it was alt tech. Actually, alt tech is altered tech, not the pure tech. So if you felt like learning about, actually, I think that it was I watched the video and it was quite good. I think it had to do with learning to draw, which I have to do if I want to design my own attires. Which is of course something I want to do, but never get to the point because I have to handle my public relations. So the point about the Scientology study technology I want to make, which has to do with my EPF course on training that is advanced level, or perhaps a slightly different angle, has to do with one of the exercises where you deal with data. So you have some information and you ask yourself, how can it be true? And then you come up with examples. So let's say, I don't know, let's say reading books makes you richer. How can it be? Well, for example, you can take part in a conversation with educated people who can help you in life. Okay, another example. You can learn about things other people don't know. So you have a competitive edge. Another thing. Well, you can improve your language, which makes you very powerful. Okay, another point. And so on, so on. Now, the idea I erected was that we should actually ask, how can this be not true? So let's have reading books makes you richer. How can this be not true? Well, of course, I believe that reading books makes you richer, but how can this be not true? Well, let's say you read a book that gives you a lot of false information, and you use that false information. For example, let's say you read a book about investing your money, and you are totally misled into investing incorrectly, and so on and so on. What can I tell you about my personal gains from Scientology? from using Scientology tech. So one thing is word clearing. It gave me so you actually, this. I already had it as a student in a sense, because the way I learned my English was taking the word. I had the Longman dictionary, so my method was putting the word in a copybook and writing all definitions, and each definition had examples of sentences. So this is how I learned my English. In Scientology, you have definitions, you have examples of sentences, except that these are your own. So you actually create sentences. And finally, you check the derivation. This is where the word comes from. And I think that is the point where you arrive at real power. Making sentences is also really good. Well, the way I studied had the advantage of actually learning the structure of the English language subconsciously. So if you deal with so many correct sentences, then your brain does the learning and all those things that have to do with pattern finding. And I think this is why I'm quite fluent in English right now. This is and quite correct on the whole. Of course, I make mistakes, but I'm not sure where I make more mistakes in English than in Polish. Even if my English can sound foreign at times. Well, so does Polish, I think, sometimes when I make it to English. Anyway, my point is that if you have a word and you go through all those definitions, and so then you have the real power of the word, because then when you see it, you take the word apparently, which can mean obviously, or it can mean seemingly. So you actually can go in two opposite directions, and you must be aware that it is possible. So then if you have the experience of having one word of the kind, if you are aware of the possibility of there being a word that has totally different meanings, which give you a totally different understanding of the sentence you are reading, then you become sensitive to the problem. And if you read a sentence which does not make sense, then you might actually reach for a dictionary and check if there is some other definition that makes the sentence make sense in the whole context of what you are reading, of course. And the problem with this exercise, with this practice of how can this be true, is that if you have this word and you have the incorrect definition, you can actually make your brain, if you are used to it, you actually make your brain create a totally false reality of how this pointless sentence, which does not make sense at all because you have a wrong definition of the word, can make sense due to your higher intelligence. I mean, this has to do with eloquence. So it is important to know, to be very scientific about it. Then I really like this derivation point, because it gives you the origin of the word comes from, so you actually get the concept. And if you are a philologist, it's really wonderful. And if you are not a philologist, then it's simply very empowering, because this word is yours. You are in control of it, and it's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling to be confident in the whole. Now, if you, I mean, I shouldn't get too crazy, but if you like words and you like studying them, for example, if you have to do with it, if you are dealing with a technical word, a term, so you also must be aware of it, that, for example, when you read something that I say, and for example, I say that this is suppression. So, okay, you have a concept of the word suppression as it functions in the English language, but then, well, this is a Scientology term, so it means something different. Or, for example, enthusiasm. If I tell you, well, my tone is 4.0, which is enthusiasm, and then you have oh, actually, oh, but I'm not sure if I did not confuse something, so I will sensitize you to it in a second. Anyway, um, so you have this. I say, well, I'm enthusiasm. You say, what? You are enthusiasm? You are happy all the time. You are like complaining all the time. It has nothing to do with enthusiasm. I am enthusiasm. Wow, wow, wow. Well, you are not. You are on drugs. So you need to check, or you are emotional contagion, not enthusiasm in Scientology terms. So another thing is that you have to be sensitive to those words. Like, is it a term or is it a word as I use it? Apart from being sensitive to the word as I use it, having a few definitions. Imagine an Assangeist talking to a Scientologist, and the Scientologist said, well, Aggie is my PC. Oh my God, she's your personal computer? Wow! Now, you may ask yourself if LRH did not mean it that way, that the homonym is not accidental, but that is a totally different story. That is not what this auditor told you about Aggie. PC is pre-clear, so this is a person receiving auditing to become clear. That is the person independent of the person having no reactive mind, independent of the reactive mind. Normally it's having no reactive mind, but there's a technique in Dianetics 55 that has to do, this is actually the practice you can do in Scientology, which says you to, I don't know if it's, you need to check it also, but it has to do with, it is a one-shot clear. Oh, and perhaps I should not say what it is to avoid spoiling the chance of you using this, of you getting this kind of auditing and becoming clear letters like that. I don't think that this makes the person the person's reactive mind disappear completely. The reactive mind is the bank, the storage of the painful incidents, either physically painful or emotionally painful. So I don't think that your reactive mind disappears at this point, but you are totally independent. Where are we going now? Oh yeah, I told you that, if you are really like angry, you can have a lot of fun with actually taking this word, this concept, the Scientology concept, and making demos. So, you can demonstrate the meaning, demonstrate the relations. And you can do it with your demo kit, like, okay, these are parts of my demo kit. Okay, so this is my supervisor, this is Aggie, and this is the information that goes from Aggie to the supervisor. Okay, so I have demonstrated you how one-way communication works. Oh, maybe not fully, but okay, now the supervisor has received the piece of communication. What he has to do is he has to duplicate it, so he has to have the exact meaning sent to him appearing in his mind, that is in his analytical mind, understanding it, not appearing it, but actually comprehending what I am saying, which can be a problem if the supervisor knows better than you. Should I make another point now? Well, not yet, in a second. Another way of demonstrating is using clay. So you can, make you can make people and show relations by means of arrows, and you add little pieces of paper on which you say what it is. Well, I will not do it now. You can check it. But what it does to your mind is first of all, if you don't understand, you are not able to do it. So you get, okay, so there's something, I don't know how to do it. So let's see what I need to understand about it. And you work it out. And finally you arrive at complete simplicity of whatever you learn. This is also the minimalism. Even if you make it, like, you take the whole table and you make a lot of those figures or other clay shapes to show how you understand it. And the material you use, and this is like you don't write a composition on this little piece of paper. It's a label, so you must keep it very simple, and you must show directions. So that makes you really own it, as we say in Scientology. It means it's yours now. You really understand it. And my personal experience is that it also helps with your overs and withholds. So you can demonstrating clay, a situation that is your overt, and suddenly you understand it. And at that very moment, you as is it. So you arrive at what it really is or was. Now, the difference of the opposite of as easy, that is arriving at the truth, is alter isness. So altering something. So all lying, all change of accent, all change of emphasis, all omission of data, or everything that changes the truth is alter isness. And alter isness leads to insanity in the end. Now, talking about insanity, we have the situation of having to be right, which causes insanity. So let's say that Prince Adam told Agnieszka's pupil's parents that Agnieszka was a Satanist. And the parents started acting accordingly. So what is happening now? It was in 2004, 2005. Well, over a decade later, the president of and the previous ruling party and the whole world are, are working to make Agnieszka a Satanist because they must be right. So this is exactly how far the insanity can go when the person cannot say, oh my God, what I said was not true. And what are the consequences? And the person needs to take full responsibility for saying the untruth and making others believe it was the truth. Um, Obviously, if the person got into such a poor ethical condition, the person needs to get out of it, go up. So what Scientologists normally do is they use ethics formulas. I don't. So maybe I mean I don't do it. Basically, I live. I'm trying to live in the truth. So I don't lie at all. I am productive. I work, and I make my decisions on the basis of the optimum solution. The optimum solution is the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. So now we are going to travel to dynamics. Let me just check if there is something I wanted to cover. Yes, absolutely. I wanted to make the point about communication. So you remember, this is Agnieszka, this is her supervisor. And this is the information that travels from Agnieszka to the supervisor. So first of all, there's Agnieszka. Agnieszka needs to have the intention to communicate to the supervisor. So she has the intention to communicate to the supervisor, and she sends the information to the supervisor, which the supervisor must have the intention to receive and understand. Must understand exactly what Agnieszka said, what Agnieszka meant to communicate. So he must understand the intention. And okay, he has received it. So now he answers. So the communication goes from here to Agnieszka. Basically, in Scientology, what you have is that once you have completed that, you must wait for the supervisor to have the intention to communicate to Agnieszka, send the information to Agnieszka, who is willing to receive communication from the supervisor, and then Agnieszka must have an intention to send communication to the supervisor, which the supervisor is willing to receive. Okay, so this is the perfect communications, and he must duplicate it, which means he must get the exact message sent. So the exact message meant. So this is how it works in Scientology. I have a different attitude to it, and I'm in my right to be faithful to what is true and workable for me. Well, imagine a marriage between the person who talks a lot and the person who likes listening. So try to apply Scientology to that. Well, one person would feel totally suppressed because, well, she cannot say another sentence because it might be saying too much. I mean, you talk all the time, and another person can feel suppressed by being deprived of her willingness not to speak but to listen. Um, yeah. So now let us move to the concept I had at the beginning when I started this recording, but somehow I developed in a different direction, which is good because the Holy Bible. As you know, I'm testifying. This is my testimony, so it has to be fully truthful. This is the Holy Bible. This is not the Scientology Holy Bible. This is the Christian Holy Bible. And yes, the because the water, the holy water is here. So, I'm not afraid of the holy water because I bought it from a priest. So, and I bought it in the church. So you can be certain that this is a holy Bible, not. And I did not do any satanistic magic to it or Scientology magic to it or any other magic. This is pure Bible, holy Bible with the holy water on it. Well, I did not ask the priest if he did put the holy water there, but I believe he did. Anyway, his hands probably had a lot of holy water there, so life. Generally, when you think of life in Scientology terms, and if you think of survival, of optimum solutions, of problems, you think about dynamics. So, what is a dynamic? Dynamic is an urge to survive. And there are 8 dynamics in Scientology. So there are compartments of life, so to say, the area in which you want to survive. Survive in Scientology means not only to continue to live, but also to prosper, to expand, to become better. The positive idea of not just stagnation. Stagnation would not be survival. Even if we understand survival in that sense in our casual speech. Survival in Scientology requires a bit more. And generally, there's this thinking which has to do with those formulas and statistics which measure your progress in life, which I don't like because I think there's a lot of perversion statistics. For example, how well you progress. For example, how many people liked my tweet today? Oh my God, if I were to measure my success by the number of people who liked my tweet, Jesus Christ, I'm the complete failure. Well, bullshit. Basically, you have those compartments in which you want to survive. And these are the first dynamic. There is the 7 possessions. The second dynamic, which is sex, children, and the Scientology ethics book puts creativity here too. 3 is group, 4 is mankind, 5 is life, other life forms, fauna and flora. 6 is the physical universe, 7 is the spiritual universe, the spiritual generally, and 8 is God. So let me tell you how I relate to it, because obviously it's about me, right? This is the purpose of this presentation. This is not your introduction to Scientology. This is for you to learn about me, because this is me who is having a problem. Now, not they are having their problems, and they are part of my problem. So, how do I imagine my survival as me, the person? Well, first of all, I am a certain person who has a certain nature. So I don't want this nature to be perverted. For example, if someone is trying to make a whore out of me, of course, my survival is in a great danger. So this is the problem I am having problems with now. And definitely, as long as it's not solved, we will be in a conflict. Well, I am a virgin, and I have never ever been attracted to the environment into which I had been thrown, into which I had been raped, and it is non-negotiable. What it has to do with is space. So remember, I was talking about be, do, and have. Beingness is first of all, the identity, but it is also space. So this is the level of Scientology 8 to 8008. And there, if you read the data on the space, you understand that your beingness actually has to do with your own space. If that space is suppressed by an imposition of another space, which you reject, which has nothing to do with you, which creates a constant conflict with yourself, with you as a person, with you as a spirit, with you as life, then obviously this is what we call in Scientology counter-survival. So it works against you. It is harmful for you. It is killing you. So obviously whoever does it to you is your enemy. And you need to treat the person exactly that way. So if someone, so this is about space, but there's more to it. I have been merged with people. So this is going further because, invading my space is already going too far. But now invading my body, merging me with other people, connecting people to my body, or connecting bits and pieces to my body, or connecting dead bodies to my body. This is unthinkable. Connecting other people's routers to my body. Like I have a router belonging to Alexandra Kicha, which is a blowjob router. Or in her case, probably it was 69 because because she has a different space. Her space is more humid. But perhaps it was 60. I had such a beautiful space because it is connected with. I think it is connected with my situation, with my waterfall situation with Ron Macmillan, unless I'm incorrect. But this is totally my experience. So this is my space, not her. Or, like stealing spaces. So this is the question about your possessions. So this is like someone takes your car. Okay, so what is it? This is a thief. And some also imagine someone like putting me in coma and taking one, oh, what do you call it in English, kidney. I'm not sure if it's a kidney. Oh, let me check it. It is a very good example. Kidney. Okay, so someone says, well, you have two kidneys, so I can take one out. So, I'm going to sleep, and there comes someone, puts me into, drugs me so that I would not feel anything. And next day I wake up and I see that something is wrong, but I'm not aware that someone took my kidney and gave it to Ola because hers was not too good and mine was perfect. But, you cannot do it. This is totally illegal. This is totally unacceptable. This is theft. This is theft. And this is, of course, criminal. And so this is about having my own space. This is about having my own identity. I defined my identity in 2001 when I went onto a different plane. And you have be, do, have. I wanted to solve the problem of terrorism. So, I, I became the person who is, I assume this responsibility, who is responsible for solving that problem because I chose to do it. And I became a Scientologist, going to train to be competent and capable. Then I became, a student. I was following Radek Sikorski because he was a diplomat. Then I became a mediator. And then, it has, all of those things have to do with doingness. That is what you do actually to have this peace process happening in the end. So as a student, I was studying and doing my practical exercises. As a follower of Radek Sikorski, I was making notes, I was listening carefully, I was getting new information, I was learning. As a mediator, I went into um, the spiritual contact. Well, that was a huge risk action. But I did get in contact with Osama bin Laden. So what it takes then in terms of doing this is, bin Laden being nice enough to send his perception of the conflict to me, and me being able to duplicate it. Now, as a mediator, I want to send this perception, this vision, what it really is, to the other person who is in conflict with bin Laden. So this is what a mediator does. In short, I mean, a mediator does much more. So you have the person which has a perfect identity for doing something, and the person doing something, so that the person would have something. Well, then the person might have something that the person did not want to have, which is exactly my case. But all the time, you must be aware of this person having determined to do something and thus taking responsibility for it. And other people arriving into the person's world, suppressing this, invalidating this totally powerful, positive goal, which has to do with the future of humankind. And Ella Stożek and the porn world are exactly that. I was pure. I was to go to Pakistan. I was to negotiate with Osama bin Laden. I have nothing to do with the porn world. My space is purely spiritual. I have been working, and it has nothing to do with Satanism. I have been working on it since 2001, because this is when I had this intention. This is when I took this responsibility. This is when I went on this plateau. Well, perhaps you are making a point to me. Okay, I'm not saying I have not learned anything from the porn world, but you are not allowed to incapacitate me. And this is exactly what you have done. So this is the situation, the first dynamic. Well, it has to do with the state of possession and so on, but this is very low. We are operating in a totally different universe, so don't bother me with saying that the floor in my bathroom, again, it's, you are so lazy, you should get some, you should clean that floor. Yes, I know I should, and I will. But right now, I have so many things on my head that I really have no time to do it right now, even if I am unemployed, because I'm solving global problems. And now there comes Radek Sikorski. Right. Well, right. Exactly. That is exactly what I'm doing. Are you? So, anything to add? Well, of course, it has to do with having what I want to have. Well, I want to have the competence, okay? So, for example, languages are very important for me because it does have to do with communication. So, I learn languages. How are you helping me in that? I want to have the reality, so I get in contact with some people, but I also um, um, need to get some knowledge from books. How are you helping me in that? You have deprived me of my peace and quiet. I cannot learn. And there are many more things that I would like to have, which are probably of lower importance, but I would like to have health. Why have you been damaging my health? What gives you the right to damage my health? Not to mention all the actions taken at me that damaged my reputation. I want to have a superb reputation, and I have earned it. All you have been dealing in is slander and libel. These are pure lies. I have never had any relationship with Jacek Cichocki. I have never had any relationship with Andrzej Duda. I have never had any relationship with Radek Sikorski even. Not to mention Tomek Siemoniak. I hear I was in love with Tomek Siemoniak. What? He's not my kind of guy at all. I haven't got the least attraction for Tomek Siemoniak. I know who has. Agnieszka Pomaska has. Well, she happens to be one of the heads of the Civic Platform. Wow, I have a problem. Not to mention Tomek being the person, the third party between me and the NATO. So let us understand the third party activity. Well, the third party activity is the person that comes between one person and another and is working very hard to create a conflict between the two. So if someone says, I know that you love your wife, but she's actually unfaithful, and she really is unfaithful, this is not a third party activity. This is, friendship. But then, if someone comes and says, well, your wife is having an affair while she's faithful, this is a third party activity. So no, I don't know about. This is not a piece of information. This is just an example, because I'm pretty sure that Tomasz Siemoniak was working hard on creating a false identity for me. Radek Sikorski was working hard on creating a false identity for me. Not to mention Maja Rostowska. These are third parties. Now, Aleksandra Kicza, of course, Aleksandra Kicza, Karolina Wachowicz, Tomek Pawlak, who else? Iza Mróz, who else? Mariusz Rakoczy, who else? Well, I'm afraid my aunt from Canada too. And the Church of Scientology Advanced Organization Saint Hill, plus some people who went to flag. For example, Jessica. Anyone else? I'm not sure of our Minister of Sport Minister of Sports status, but I'm having an intuition. I have an intuition that he might have Mr. Drzewiecki, that he might have messed up a few things for me too. Kasia Pietryka, the person that you call it a terminal, the person you communicate to, in Scientology call such a person terminal. My last terminal in advanced organization Saint Hill. Well, I think she might have been an Assangeist if she was at Saint Hill at all, but let's assume that she was there. I think she was an Assangeist plant, a third party. So, but in Scientology you have the third party technology. So what do you do when you are dealing with the third party activity? Well, you talk to the person, not to the third party. And no one has talked to me. So what does it tell me about the people involved? Well, they don't want to talk to me. Simple. Because if you want to know the truth, you contact the person and you ask, what was, and then we handle it. So I say, okay, so what was said? Who was it? and so on. And we arrive at the truth, and this is the simplest way to do it. So I did try to call the Saint Hill Manor. Well, no one picked up the phone. I wonder why. You had my phone number on my Twitter account, and you say you talked to me. No, you did not. And I hear that some people, even President Duda, were receiving emails from me. Well, who knows, perhaps even from my accounts that I checked yesterday or the day before yesterday. And it turned out that my emails were deleted, so probably there was some activity there. There might have been some activity there. Well, let's imagine that someone received a message from one of those two accounts, Agnieszka Rojek at Interia EU or Agi Rojek at Interia.pl. Well, in December 2011, I reported to the police that the accounts had been hacked and there had been some hostile activity, probably aiming at framing me, most probably aiming at framing me, including criminality in the area of pornography and pedophilia. I asked for help. I asked for blocking the accounts for whatever access from whoever outside my terminal, that is my computer. But that's not all. In my Facebook account, which was Agnieszka Bint Abicha, that was my third profile, there was a detailed information. You know, all my pupils had a lot of fun about the RU, the portal in Russia, and my, overactive imagination. So there was the information that the account had been hacked. So it was obvious, and that there might have been some communication. So if I had been surveyed, and the track of each of the steps I take in the internet was kept, how come you missed it? So it tells me that you don't want to arrive at my real identity. The big question is why? And you don't want to solve the conflict with me. You want the conflict to be lasting. Now, obviously, if you try to turn an honest person into a prostitute, you are committing a serious crime. If you do it from the level of the head of the United States, well, it's very serious, and you know it. So you are actually suable. First dynamic. I think I want to add here. Well, of course, it has to do with having my own history and no one stealing my experience, my love experience or other experience, and giving it to or spiritual experience and giving it to Maya Rostowska or Alexandra Kicza or Eva Cichocka or whoever else. It has to do with my possessions, that is to do with copyrights. So, all my Facebook profiles shouldn't have been blocked because, this is the patent, this is the brand, they are mine. I worked as a stylist, I worked as there's documentation of my teaching, practice. There are my speeches. There is the brand development of Agnipolitania. There is the scientific breakthrough in my attitude to paradigm, talking about the metaphor of glasses. Even if someone else used this metaphor, I said I would make a paradigm shift. So, this is the record. What's more, this is the record of the development of my trauma. I'm a victim of torture. This is a record. So it cannot be, blocked without my agreement to it. There's much more in it, but just to give you some idea, this is the first dynamic, and you are not allowed to squash it. You are not allowed to suppress it. It is illegal. Probably there are more things coming into it. Let me have some coffee. What else? Well, of course, it has to do with money too, how rich I am. So, it is important that through your actions started in 2009, you have deprived me of the possibility to earn money. So you actually need to, I need to get compensation, damages for that. Apart from or other damages. My situation right now is very difficult, and I know that my competence, my products, even my analysis are worth a lot of money. I'm aware of it. Your employees are doing a much worse, less competent work than I do, and they get great money for it. So I know my value. I may not be able to estimate it exactly, but I will be able, because I'm learning all the time. I'm learning, so I arrive before I start the process that claims damages or compensation. I will learn it. I will do the research. I will check how much you actually. I will check how much the people who were tortured, the terrorists who were tortured, how much money they got for the torture, and how do you, as a compensation, as damages, how do you actually evaluate it, and then take into account that I'm a totally innocent person, I'm a totally noble person, I have nothing to do with terrorism at all, no connections. So, and all sorts of other things, like, for example, well, how much does the NSA and NASA, how much do they earn well, the critical time is March till now. So this is already March, April, May, June. What? April, May, June, July, August? Well, 5 months. But this is not only that, because you have been abusing me for a long time. So this is like, March is this. But we should start counting it with the day I publish the outline of my Agnipolitana Academy, which was in January. I have been abused all this time. What happened in March was really critical, but it does not mean that I had not been abused before. So each month of the abuse is the loss of money. And the NSA, the NASA, is only one of those money earning agencies. Look at the faculties in the academy. Each of those faculties is a think tank, and this is set on a very high level. This is not like like some crazy guy having an idea. This is totally professional. So each day of the abuse constitutes immense losses. And this is first dynamic. Second dynamic. Second dynamic has to do with my personal life, with me having my children. Well, how are you going to solve this? We started in 2009. I have been deprived of my privacy, not to mention all the damages done. I'm going to be 42 in September. I wanted to have 3 children. And you knew I wanted to have children because I said it in my interviews in 2014. They are recorded. It is not my problem that you have not listened to them. If you survey me, it is your duty to listen to them. If you think you don't have time, you shouldn't do the job you are doing. Neglect of duty in the department in which you work is criminal. You are in the position of trust. Then we have marriage. So, if you create a false identity and you make it public, you publicize, and it has nothing to do with me, because if it's the truth, then it's the truth, but it's not the truth. I have nothing to do with prostitution at all. And you merge me with prostitutes. You allow people like Anna Grodzka, who is a transvestite, who is a gay. She likes experiments. I hate them. But she puts this aura on me, creating a totally false image. You put me into LGBT, the group that I have nothing to do with. You deprive me of a chance to get in contact with my husband and have a life. And there's no slavery in Poland. And as far as I know, slavery is illegal in the United States too. Let us check the constitution of the Federation of Russia. Is slavery legal in Russia? Because it is the only arrangement of human relations in which a person can enter a contract with another person, which includes a decision about the third person's life, without the third person having whatsoever idea of being one of those paragraphs in the contract, whether the contract has been written up and signed, or whether it is the case of a spoken agreement, which is binding. So such a situation would imply Agnieszka Rojek is a slave, which means the parties have entered into trade in human beings. As far as the husband is concerned, how does it relate? What Scientology knowledge relates to? That is obviously connected with ARC, KRC. So triangles. ARC is affinity, reality, communication. The idea is that each of those, these need to synchronize. And if they, if you raise one of them, the other are raising two. The other rise two. Altogether, they constitute understanding, affinity, reality, communication. Now, let us have the Scientology understanding of this. Affinity is the degree of liking. Reality, of course, the primary meaning is closeness, so how close those people are. Another thing is reality is agreement. So what do the people agree on? And communication is, what is communication? Um, the actual ability to send something you intend to send and have it received by another person, or being able to receive what another person had an intention to send to you. So apart from intention, you need to have attention. And another thing that just came up to me, it requires you being able to be an effect. You cannot be caught all the time, because if you are caught all the time, you are not able to receive communication, to duplicate it. To be able to duplicate it, to receive it, you must be willing to become an effect. Now, in Scientology, we talked about the R factor, which is reality factor. So, for example, if I talk about something, why I was so happy about discovering Mr. David Cohen, because it seemed to me that the reality factor would be adequate. In other words, if I talk, and how do I know it? Why did I go into the wow? I wrote those notes. There were 4 notes, and I do it intuitively. And when I read the notes, I finally see that I have a sense of self-fulfillment. What's more, then I wrote up those questions, and it was breathtaking for me that I could arrive at the courage. Now, there can be a communication come between us, which has to do with some data I'm not receiving. So it might be that I have some concept of Mr. David Cohen, the deputy director of the CIA, and it was completely the correct concept. So it might be that he is actually my enemy or whatever. Still, he has the reality factor that, the reality factor is such that he should be able to duplicate what I'm communicating, because this is not out of his world. So these things I read to him. I think that he might have a very negative attitude to Scientology, which is one of the reasons why I'm making this recording, but this is also for my file, for my NSA file, because, the overall image of a Scientologist is totally different from what I am. So, and this is like, as I told you, actually, I didn't finish telling you, but you just had this introduction, so now I'm continuing how the Scientology operates in my life. It can, because he was dealing with finance, and obviously I'm aware that there have been some allegations against the Church of Scientology concerning finance. I'm not dealing with the Scientology finance, and I have no financial ties, or I don't operate in that area in terms of Scientology at all. I have never been paid by the Church of Scientology. I have never received any money from the Church of Scientology. The only money I paid the Church of Scientology was when I paid for my volunteer minister course, which I did not complete. So actually, this is also suable from my point of view. But then they took me on the EPF. So this is and routed me to the SEER. So then I took those courses for which I did not pay, but they gave me the courses. But then this is a legal point. But this is not Mr. David Cohen's business, so to say, because these are relations between me and the church. Now, when I start developing this situation with the church, which probably will happen one day due to the overall situation, to me planning to take the legal action against the people who have ruined my life. So I will have to arrive at locating the exact persons who had to do with it. We can imagine that there is a person in the Church of Scientology, in the Saint Hill Advanced Organization, who gave Mr. David Cameron this piece of information that said Agnieszka Rojek was insane. Well, then I do sue the person, but perhaps something like that did not happen. So we need to get facts. However, at this point, my relation, those little things are not Mr. Khan's or anyone else's business. So, Mr. Khan has some work he does on the Church of Scientology, and I am a private person who happens to be a beneficiary of the knowledge and training having been made available to her. So this can be the reality factor where we have problems with where we have problems with understanding each other, because you are not able to become the effect of my communication, so to say. So what I'm saying does not arrive at you as facts, which it is. And I did made those reservations at the very beginning, right? And I'm an ethical person, I'm an educated person, I'm an intelligent person, I'm a hardworking person, and I have a lot of other things. All the previous lifetimes that have, which can also be the reality factor here, because you might not believe in reincarnation, so you don't get my idea of all those Hinduistic or Buddhist thinking at all. But then we continue on communication, so I supply data, and you just must understand at one point that this is factual data, and today I live thanks to having done this training. That's why I have control. So this is reality. Now there's the aspect of reality, extraterrestrial existence. Like when I say extraterrestrial, when I say aliens, the people in Poland thought I meant homosexuals. Well, perhaps they have some extraterrestrial connections. Or, like all those weird people. Well, perhaps weird people are, may call themselves aliens, but I mean extraterrestrial existence, intelligence out there in the outer space. Now, this is like someone say, wow, my God, you have gone totally mad. Like, a Scientologist, because, they have those Scientologists, the Scientologists have the PTS materials. And the moment when you say you talked to aliens, you are really like, but you're not. Or you are. Depends. The things that have to do with communication are, of course, communication and your competence in language, plus a lot of other things like, those little things like irony and other speech ornaments or simply devices. KRC is knowledge, responsibility, control. Well, knowledge is knowledge. I don't think I need to elaborate on that. Responsibility in Scientology means allowing no intervention between you and what you take responsibility for. So this is slightly different from the general understanding of the term responsibility. Of course, it includes that. So, okay, you went into communication with Mr. David Cohen, and now there comes Mr. Brennan, or there comes Mr. President of Poland. Well, what do you do with that? Well, they are not acting as go-betweens, because I went into communication with Mr. David Cohen of the CIA. So I will not communicate with anyone, and Maja Rostowska is not representing me. So whatever communication of that kind is totally invalid. It has nothing to do with my communication with Mr. David Cohen of the CIA, the deputy director. Or earlier, I wanted to go into communication with other people, but they failed. And originally, we are handling my legal situation, right? So let's make it clear. Now, whatever else develops by the way, develops by the way. And the same concerns me and the Church of Scientology. So, like some journalists had an idea of saving me, and then they decided that it was too late. I cannot be helped. So, okay, let's help others. Or they went into communication with my pupils. Well, you have no right to. Okay, I could let go my pupils because this is the decision I made. Because this is I mean, if that's their choice, fine. This they life is a test. They have chosen. So bye bye. But as far as me and the Church of Scientology is concerned, no one is going to intervene between me and the church. No one is going to intervene between me and my captain. Not even Tom Cruise. Not even David Miscavige. Even if I might need David Miscavige's protection in terms of the pure tech, because this is indeed what I wanted at one point. So I wanted to make sure that I'm not ultra technical. But by now I have gone to that point when I look at it, because I actually said they demanded the change of the management of the Church of Scientology in the wake of me sending the 2 RTC reports when I was on the verge of dying, of committing suicide, or I don't know, just collapsing totally. And they did not communicate back. So for me, this is an obvious sign that there's something terribly wrong with the management. Now, the same concerns the other side. So if they allowed whoever to be a go-between between us, they are also taking, because they are responsible for me. And that responsibility means that they communicate directly to me, especially if they are made aware that there is some problem. No one has caught me. Sometimes it's not easy, of course. So this is responsibility. Control. Generally, if you think of control in Scientology, you think of the cycle of action. So this is, the way you put order into your life in Scientology. The cycle of action is the situation where you start an activity, you change it, or change something that is part of that activity, the product of that activity, for example, and then you stop it. And I think this is exactly what, I don't know if these are Scientologists or Assanges, it doesn't matter really, but there's a misunderstanding there anyway. When you have this I'm supposed you are abusing me sexually, and I'm supposed to say stop it, and I hear my cousin Diana, because this is stop it. So And this is, this means that you have taken control. This is bullshit. You have not taken control. This is quite the reverse. Actually, you have lost control because you did exactly what they wanted you to do. So this is a totally different situation. Anyway, the insanity um, comes when you have problems with one of those. So you must be unable to start. You might be unable to change, or you might be unable to start. You might be unable to change, or you might be unable to stop an activity. But there's another. So do you know this is like a complete cycle of action until you arrive at the completion. Um, but there's also, I think this is actually a Scientology data that when you're involved in a cycle of action, at one point you realize that this is not going to give you the result you expected. You decide not to complete it. That's all. And this is sanity. So, these three also go together. Okay, knowledge, responsibility, control. It's very difficult to control an area that you have no knowledge of, which is why your messing up with my life is so criminal. I cannot acquire knowledge that I need for solving problems, which are global problems. But even if they were not, even if I were an individual thinking of myself only, you still have no right to intervene between me and my love. Not to mention intervening between me and my prospective or possible husband, which is the core and the root of the problem. Um, Conflict between me and advanced organizations, and here it is about John Macmillan. So, okay, perhaps we would not get married. We would not have gotten married. But you had no right to intervene between us. So this is the second dynamic. The third dynamic, this is a group. Well, that would have to do with the nation. One of my groups, groups that I feel responsible for because this is the group I chose at one point, is obviously the Church of Scientology. So, I'm doing my best to um, introduce corrections into the church, the church's activities. And I don't need. Um, it would be great if my captain told me, Agnieszka, you have done amazing work. But my captain says that, Agnieszka, you are creating problems. Ola is our heroine. She is the future of Scientology. Then I would know what to think of my captain, and that's all. I'm doing my work. Uh, this is why I also made this is why I made this recording on suppression. But this is also why I have been supporting Katie Holmes, because even if she is a bitch in the end, I don't know her. I have been corrected in my perception of celebrities. I don't know the situation. That's factual. And also, it's like, someone is taking a revenge on me for Katie, right? Because Tom did something to Katie, so they did it to me. Well, excuse me, but Katie did agree to marry Tom. She was his wife. So you're not right. I'm sorry. So basically, And this is I just wanted to publish some of those concepts. Like, for example, the beingness, the identity thing that cannot be suppressed because it is illegal. They cannot do it. Mm, for example, studying psychology. Imagine a Scientologist starting to study psychology or going into contact with psychologists, and then you have the church like, oh, now you are going to be suppressive because you communicate with Barack Obama. Barack Obama is a suppressive person. Well, okay, I might agree because he has had quite a contribution into raping me. But on the other hand, well, this is my R factor. This is my communication factor. This is the world we are living in. Not to mention Abu al-Baghdadi and the Caliphate, understanding the Caliphate, or Osama bin Laden and understanding terrorism. I don't think the Church of Scientology is giving a correct um, explanation of terrorism. Not in the least. And this is absolutely right for me to say, well, I don't agree. So this is one group. Now we have Poland. Well, I'm having a very difficult situation in Poland because I should really say, well, I don't care. I'm not going to do anything for Poland anymore because Poland is the Church of Scientology is in treason with regard to me. The same concerns Poland. Poland is in treason with regard to me too, towards me too. I am really thinking about immigration. But on the other hand, I have been empowered in Poland. So these are real powers like John Paul II to start with. Then Ryszard Kapuściński. I know that I have a lot. I mean, I don't want to go into the left wing. Actually, Ryszard Kapuściński wanted to leave the left wing. But it turned out that it was not that easy. So probably this is why they took their revenge. You are not better than us, they said posthumously. And then there is the Polish king. I know it. I know that I received this empowerment, which is amazing. But this is exactly, and no, this does not have to do with Jacek Kowalski, who does have the empowerment too. I know it. This is my own. This is separate, and it does not have to do with Andrzej Duda too. Andrzej Duda wanted to underling. Perhaps he has his own too. I don't know, but this don't connect. Andrzej Duda is trying to suppress me, in fact, and I have mine. So this is making me so powerful. Apart from other empowerments from other countries and cultures. And I do think that I might be getting some initial communications connected to Adam Mickiewicz. You know what makes me think of it? Like when you fed me with those dead bodies, and then I thought that, and especially with the Rihanna diamonds, I thought that no, that I don't know. I don't know if Rihanna was dealing with her situation from this lifetime or previous or one of her friends. It's quite possible it has nothing to do with her at all. But she simply took it on her because she's strong. She's very strong. But it doesn't mean that I have to take hers on me. But the idea I had is that there was this person who died and perhaps I don't know if the person is already in a new body, so but it's a baby, so cannot do much about it, cannot communicate the way an adult person can, or we don't know where the person really is. But the person wants to tell something, like you have those dziady. So what are you coming for? What do you want to communicate? What do you want to say? But then there's a danger because once you become the channel, which I have become due to what you have done, um, but you might have done it also because the person wanted it. So you thought, you thought that, okay, this is because we hold you in contact, so we'll feed you with the dead bodies. But in fact, it might be that, the whole contact situation was created by the person who wanted to communicate something. And this was the way the person was able to go through and communicate. Uh, so this is and I was acting as a messenger earlier, but not in such a critical situation. So I did have the idea that this might be starting happening, that then Adam Mickiewicz might have somehow, there might be some initial primary points of communication with that spiritual reality too, which are above, because there's a difference between you reading a book and understanding, but then there's this other world, uh, the mystic world to which you can get access. Mine is different because this Sir Mallory and William Blake, and I know it. Perhaps some other too, but certainly some Buddhist reality, some Hindu reality, some which I cannot tell you. This is not about having an encyclopedia in your mind. This is a totally different thing than the Egypt and the pre-Latin America. Well, we'll see. Anyway, the situation of Poland is critical, and basically we need to arrive at the state of law. I see how it develops. There are days when this is totally devastating, and it's totally non-negotiable. I mean, why should anyone claim any rights to my life? So I will not accept whatever disquiet in the area of my mouth, throat. The connection between my mouth and the penises needs to disappear because it has nothing to do with me in my life. So if this connection is present, it means that there's a foreign router, or that there's another person merged with me still, but keeping silent. It can be Maya Rostowska, it can be Alexandra Kirza, it can be Alexandra Michtowa, whoever. It can be Artur Marek. I don't know who Artur Marek is. Check him, because I hear the name and he shouldn't be here. I hear, I sense a presence. And he somehow connects with Nergal, because they seem to be a spiritual entity, somehow transforming. So I don't know what it is really, but this is totally unacceptable. I am totally acceptable. I am accepted. I do not accept it, and I will never agree to it. And why should I? Why should anyone disquiet me? Why should anyone have any claims to my life? Why should I suffer? And it is critical because I want to feel comfortable in the company of men and in the company of people. And this makes my contact with other people impossible. So no, that's all. Of course, the connection will always be in my brain, and the trauma and the social trauma resulting from having connected those routers and torturing me with that intensity, apart from the previous torture. Um, this is what I will have to live with for the rest of my life. However, I would, and the same concerns Rihanna or Andrzej Duda. Andrzej Duda has no right to merge with me. or Małgorzata Sadurska, or Jarosław Kaczyński, President Medvedev or President Obama have no right to connect me to their sexual life. No one has the right to connect my mouth with their penis, or to connect my body with any parts of their body. Whatever content you feel for me, or hate, or whatever else. So unless it changes, I will have to find a country, a new homeland, where such people will be cut off and I will be given full security. And in terms of groups, I think that would be all, because on the whole I have moved. Well, one day perhaps I will have my group that has to do. I mean, as I'm saying, I don't join any. Aha, yeah, I should say something about this. The civic platform. I think they have connected me to the civic platform, But I mean, why? Especially that it was at the time when I rejected the civic platform. And I made it clear I rejected this electorate. I put a note on my Twitter. So you cannot superimpose membership. And I don't see any party that I would be ready to join today. So I said I would create my noble right, which is the best solution. But then, it takes the people worth taking the effort, because I never saw it as a career. So, this is like I'm sacrificing my time and, investing my talents, my resources. And you think that, that you are doing me a favor, but by supporting me, this is ridiculous. I have a lot to do. I want to make it official. There's a complete political non-alliance right now um, to whatever party, because none meets my standards. Um, and I'm solving the legal problems now. But on the other hand, I want to brand my achievements. I had been working hard for having my Polytechnic Academy, which is probably the best anchor point, with many anchor points growing out of the original concept of having an academy. So that would be all. Definitely, I will not stay in LGBT. So the connection you made through the Babel chocolate commercials is suable, and I will sue it. And the same concerns whatever connections to the pornographic world, to Łukasz Gongulski, to Ela Storzek. This is totally unacceptable. This is criminal, and it's unforgivable. So I want the people who are responsible for creating the pornographic reality for me, the pornographic environment, to go to prison, because this is um, that um, level of punishment. Anything else? Yeah, I think that Olga Kurylenko can also be involved, and Miranda Kerr. These are the first people that come to my mind. There's a model in France, but I'm not sure about it. I don't know what's the situation of Małgosia Bella. I think she was being framed. I think at one point I said something very positive about her, and that might have been used as a starting point by her enemies. That's my current perspective, because I find it quite unbelievable that she attacked me because I said so many compliments about her mom. So she decided that I was ridiculing her mom, and this is why she started ridiculing mine. I think she's being framed into that scenario, but I'm not sure. So just making the point. So I don't have any group alliance. I want to create my. Perhaps I will have my own elite. I rejected the elites because of the way the elites have treated me. So these are not the people for me. I would have never treated anyone that way. It's totally unthinkable for me. This is a complete cognitive shock. So I would like to create an elite around perhaps the academy, the Agripolitan Academy. That would be a good idea, but not now. Right now, I want to regain my life, get free. Uh, these people are constant oppression, and the same concerns Radio Talk FM on the journalistic world. I have never agreed to be part of that world. And as I'm saying, you have also this Scientology concept of, differentiation. It's very important in Scientology. So we have differences, similarities, and identities. So if something is different, it is different. Now, something can be similar, but it's not identical. And if I say, for example, that I know that I love something, it does not mean that you have to identify me with it. So I can say, wow, you're breathtaking. And doesn't mean that I want to look like you, not to mention be like you. Um, Obviously, there's the problem of the Catholic Church. Some people want me to convert and become a Catholic again. I have never stopped being a Catholic, and I haven't got any sins. My interest in Scientology has nothing to do with sinning. So I'm pure. And there's the problem of terrorism, but this is a war. So if someone wants to kill you and you kill him, you're not having a sin. And I said that, this is you who are sinners. The Pope Francis, has a great sin today because he had led the people, right? And of course, I do feel the affinity with the Buddhist um, community and with the Muslim community right now too, even though it is probably very difficult for them not to understand my viewpoint and so on. But I would take it to the sixth dynamic. So let me leave it now. Let's move on to the fourth dynamic, that is humankind. Well, I believe I am part of the history, and let me wind up with it. Currently, my contribution is creating the Kingdom of Nipoletania, which is an independent entity, and I believe it is best when I get busy with that. So I would really like to regain my freedom and be able to live my life. Of course, I need to get some job to earn money, it verges on impossibility right now, but miracles happen. I'm the person who does believe in miracles. Um, the fifth dynamic, which is life, um, fauna and flora. Well, basically, I think that here that would be the development in the area of ecology, first and foremost. As for my own communication with that world, it's probably much better than my communication with the human world right now. The sixth dynamic. So here we have the whole spiritual uh, universe. And I want to say that in my understanding of life, creativity belongs here. So I always put the human heritage, for example, philosophies, literature, fine arts, music, and so on in that realm. That's because I understand this as the physical form, which is a realization of the spiritual, of the spirit. So that's how I see it. And Agnipolitania belongs here. Agnipolitania is a spiritual um, queendom. Um, I don't know where to put extraterrestrials, to be honest, but as far as my communication with the extraterrestrial life goes, this is the spiritual level. And they communicate to me through physical forms of all kinds. Sometimes I become the channel also in the sense that I can make my body, let my body be moved. Like, for example, when I was drawing this picture of the UFO object, so there's little Agnipolitania there, there's the Illuminati UFO, and there's the huge pink and green UFO, which is which belongs to my extraterrestrial tribe, and I put all sorts of little pieces there, and then I realized, and I did it like just being this channel, and I realized then that these are mathematical symbols, and probably there's some physics involved there too. So this is like the line, the all those. If someone's a specialist, they know it. They should be able to spot it immediately. Let me emphasize that the concept of the sun gate is mine, not Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking was talking about black holes. Then I tried to communicate to him and mentioned the sun gate because I was receiving vibrations from there. And so I thought that this was a communication for me. And I wanted him to check whether it made any sense within his area of knowledge. I was not aware at the time that he would attack me. Becheat me. Because I think this was exactly executed to me. So that was the end of our cooperation. Now, aha, no, this is the seventh dynamic. Excuse me, I forgot the sixth the sixth dynamic, which is the physical universe. Well, struggling, struggling. But generally, I always find strength in rocks, and I do very well with the elements. Perhaps that will suffice for now. And finally, God. Well, like Scientologists, as I said, as I heard it once, I don't talk much about God, but I do believe in God. I believe in the, like we are humans, we have different religions, because we have different natures. So the Muslim nature is different from the Buddhist nature, and it's different from the Christian nature, and it's different from the Jewish nature. And other natures, there's other developments, including pagan development, but I believe there's God behind it all. But I also believe that it is quite possible we have the go between, like another, intelligence, so we can have a direct contact relation to God. But it's possible that we have still those extraterrestrials. So I believe, for example, if I have a very bright friend, a very intelligent friend who has to, this is very common among Assanges that they just like, they can squash you intellectually, they can squash me intellectually. Sometimes, not always, but it is plausible. Um, but well, now I'm doing better. But in the past, when I was not that self-confident, they could do more, and now they do all sorts of things, physical things that I'm fighting about. Like if the Assange adds, like a hand of a dead body, connected with my hand, I'm not able right now to change it into it being my hand again. So you can say that in that sense they are winning in a way, but it does not mean that they are above me, because they don't have access to that spiritual dimension that I have, and that's the point. So to wind up, there are many concepts in Scientology that are really helpful in life. For example, in terms of psychology, you have that helpful concept of introversion and extraversion. So, if your therapy makes you introvert, you are actually getting worse and worse. Of course, you should not take all that Scientology criticism of you are chewing on your bun, which is basically you're thinking of your bad experiences all the time, because perhaps you need to analyze them. So, when you have the person who says, well, you are living in the past, I'm living in the present time, or I'm thinking of my future, I'm creating a better future. Well, then you need to think again, because the person might have a lot of ethical problems in the past the person has not solved. So the person is escaping the past actually. And if you feel that there's something about your past that you need to analyze, and perhaps correct, then you know it and you do it. So this is one thing, but then on the whole, even if you do it, you must be able, to extravert, to get yourself out of it. So you can go out, you can take a walk, you can notice things around, and you can just do whatever to put your attention out. And then if you work on your problems, you can work on your problems. You can also, as I said, use demonstrations to get this out. um, yeah, I know. When I was talking about study, the guy should said something about lack of mass. So basically, you can say that you can imagine that Tom Cruise created a situation for me where he put this blowjob thing into my mouth, and basically the way I am to solve this problem is to actually deliver the blowjob when the situation happens. So this will be a completed cycle of action that you can take the pains out, and I can be peaceful again. No, this is a fuck up, and I will never accept it. So you have to, just to take the whole project out. That's it. And I'm not going to be a part of it. No way. Um, then you have well, lack of mass in the sense that I had this happening in my mouth, like the vibration. but I never had a penis in my mouth, so my mouth cavity or whatever. This. This is pure harassment, pure rape, which is very bad and unacceptable. Um, in the area of business or other things, like for example, writing my MITs, you have strategic planning. And the concept that was really valuable for me was that of having all sorts of targets, including the targets which had to do with the basic things which you keep on forgetting about. And so, things like, I don't know, something very simple. Well, if you want to check your books, if you want to check the words you don't understand in a dictionary, you must have a dictionary at hand. So this is one of those basic things. But also, which makes it, which make you laugh, but actually works if you put it down in your plan. Um, so for details, again, you would have to study the text. But then another thing that I want to mention are conditional targets. So for example, if something happens, what do you do? Which is going beyond your plan. So you must say that it's thinking in terms of plan A, B, C. Well, perhaps, maybe. For me, it was slightly different. But then you have to actually actualize the plan. I mean, you must, it is not enough to write up a wonderful strategic plan. You need to execute the plan. And I had this wonderful experience of drawing. This is one of the methods you can use in studying, but also in planning. For example, I drew the whole theatrical performance as one of my drills. So it has to do with organization too. And the most important thing that has proved most right for me is investigations. Apart from the PR data about delivering true data where there is false data, another promotion thing is promoting your good works well. But the most important thing for me was providing true data where there's false data. So, I'm not promoting Scientology, I'm just correcting the incorrect data. And as far as investigations go, the key data, there is, this whole write-up of the data, like, that can be, there can be something wrong with the data, so wrong sequence, incomplete data, missing data, well, a lot of it. I need to be finished. So this is one thing, but another thing is the overall evaluation and arriving at the conclusion that it doesn't make sense. So as long as it doesn't make sense, it means that there's something wrong. But if it does sense, if it does make sense, it does not also mean that it also doesn't mean that it's correct, because then you have to think about Einstein and he's arriving at the neat formula, at the neat equation, which was incorrect, but the previous one was not neat, so he changed it into the neat one to have it incorrect. That's the anecdote. But the truth might be different. Perhaps he didn't want to make some knowledge known, so that we would not have Hiroshima, and Nagasaki. But this is important. Like, when I think of all those things that have been happening in my life, I say, well, it doesn't make sense. So obviously, I have not arrived at the correct. I have not as-ised it yet, so I don't know what it really is yet. And there's There's also the five whys. I think this is also Scientology, but I don't remember it too well now. So let me finish. It's 2 hours and a half. I don't know if there's any place where I can upload it, but perhaps there is. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that gives you some, I don't know, uh, relief or whatever, because I'm really a positive person, and I can do a lot of things thanks to having done my work in Scientology.